Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this joint European Communications and Mobile Europe seminar, defining the role of a telco in the IoT. We're going to begin, kind of as is tradition with our seminars, with some headline findings from our most recent quarterly survey at European Communications. So, why are we talking about this today? As I alluded to, it's really the hot topic in the industry, and I'm just going to talk you through a couple of quick stories that we covered recently. This is from November. Nokia and Oi in Brazil teamed up, and they're going to do an LTE IoT lab in Rio. Swisscom has invested in the Orange-led soft at home business, which is obviously around the connected home. That was from October. Deutsche Telekom, who we're hearing from today, their smart home platform is debuting in Austria. They announced in September, and they unveiled some new partners for that. Vodafone, who we're also hearing from today, has been consistently voted as a top end-to-end service provider from an operator perspective. And again, in September, that they maintained that position and have been very well talked about as a leader in the field. Analysts love talking about the Internet of Things. Barely a day goes by without some sort of billion-dollar figure, or whether it's to go with revenues or number of connected devices that are out there. We quite like this from Beecham Research, who again we're going to hear from later on today. And they sort of talked about really sort of how some of these figures are really unrealistic and potentially damaging even to the IoT in the future. So we'll hear from them later on. So, onto the survey. This first question was really just to kind of assess what people thought about the role that operators should play in the IoT. This is, so all respondents, the figures are going to give you for this one. And it's quite clear that the telecoms industry is very clear, or at least they think they're very clear, on the role that operators should play in the IoT. 70% said they are clear, 29–30% said not clear. Here's what some of the responses were. One respondent said, connectivity, devices, managed services, bundled propositions with existing offers. But obviously, as I said, not everyone agreed. One respondent said they should play complete service provider role, but they're likely to play the dumb pipe role. I mean, I think, obviously, we had 105 responses. I haven't been able to put all the thoughts of all the respondents, but I think what was sort of kind of clear was that they might think that they know what the role is, but the actual, when we asked them what it was, there was a multitude of different answers. So they're all thinking they know what the role is, but they all think it's very different as well. So I'm sure we're going to cover that later on. We then asked, are you convinced that the Internet of Things can be a significant new revenue stream for operators in the next 5 years? Obviously, this is the key point that operators wouldn't be doing it simply if they weren't going to make any money out of it. But the industry, again, this is not just operators, it's the industry as a whole. 84% are convinced that it will be a significant new revenue stream for operators in the next 5 years. Here's what one respondent said. Revenues per connected device may be small, but given the number of devices deployed, overall revenues will be big. And again, it's something I'm sure we're going to cover off later on in the seminar. Is that really a valid strategy? We then asked, which market do you think will offer the biggest revenue opportunity for operators? We gave them two choices, the B2B market or straight to the consumer. 2/3 convinced that it's going to be the B2B market, sometimes called the industrialized Internet of Things as well. But again, a clear view there. But kind of what's interesting, sort of nuance in this. One said it's going to be B2B at the beginning, so over the next 3 to 5 years. But after 2020, the consumer market will probably be a bigger opportunity for operators. And another view from a respondent, many B2C offerings will leverage Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and thus provide limited upside potential in connectivity revenue. So there's certainly some challenges there to think about in the consumer market side. And again, we'll be covering lots of this off as we go through the day. We then focus down specifically on the operator community. And these next set of questions are the answers from purely operators. So we've heard before is everybody. This is purely operators. So we asked, do you have a dedicated IoT business unit? Majority is a clear no. 60% said no. We put our results out to a couple of different people to give their views and thoughts on it. Dr. John Bates is the author of a sort of certainly very well-regarded book called Thingalytics, and he took a look at results, and we're going to provide some sort of some of his feedback. And his view is that operators are asleep at the wheel. It is about time they see this as the new industrial revolution. So again, certainly the operators we have here today, I think, have dedicated business units, but clearly a lot of them don't. And that comment is really related to them. This is absolutely key in his view. And if you don't have a dedicated business unit, how are you going to really sort of take advantage of the opportunity that it presents? One company who's not here today is Telenor, but quite interesting. In June, they announced the appointment of an Internet of Things at an executive level at the company. So Per Simon has been moved up from Telenor's Connection, which is their M2M arm, effectively. He's been moved into the group level now, and he's been charged with making it happen at a group level. I interviewed him last month, and I thought he was going to give me the whole, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. He didn't. I was very surprised, actually. He was extremely cagey about what the plans were, where they were currently, and where they wanted to go. As a cynical old journalist, I would say that he didn't really have a clue what he was doing, or he was being very good at throwing me off the scent about what they're going to do, and they might come up with something amazing down the line. But it really sort of struck me that he was like, this is all about, we're just finding out where we need to go and what we need to do, which I thought was very honest, but I also thought potentially quite worrying. But one he did say, and he kept on sort of referring to it, he said, there's a lot of ramp-up time before the numbers can get big. In his view, they have time to look at all the different options that are on the table and decide what they're going to do. As I said, we've got Orange, we've got Vodafone here today, Deutsche Telekom. They have dedicated services out there in the market currently. I would suggest that Telenor might need to get a move on. Going back to the previous question regarding the dedicated business unit, we then asked, if you do not have a dedicated business unit, do you think it's important that one is created? 80% said yes. So there's a clear need there, but the clear difference in terms of what is and what isn't actually happening in companies. One of the other analysts we put the results out to commented on this particular question. More needs to be done in terms of developing IoT business units with multidisciplinary teams to make operators more dynamic in the market. Obviously, you can't create a business unit or focus on the IoT without actually putting some money behind it. We asked operators, do you feel enough R&D/capex is being dedicated to the IoT in your company? Clear no. Nearly 7 out of 10 said they did not feel that was the case. Obviously, I think here we know that a lot of spending is going on infrastructure such as 4G and fibre. That's really eating up a large proportion of operators' capex. And again, perhaps if we go back to the Telenor example, perhaps they're not really sure yet where they need to dedicate money at the current time. But whatever the reason, operators themselves think that much more needs to be done than is being done currently. Flip side of that, are you actively looking at M&A opportunities in the IoT space? Interesting, no. A majority, it's roughly the same, but a slight majority said they're not. So I'm not quite sure what's more worrying here. Is it the majority are not looking at M&A opportunities, or that many are relying on doing things themselves? And again, I think some of these things we'll talk about during the morning. again, Beecham, Savio, Romero. Innovation through M&A and partnership is critical to the IoT. And perhaps the most important question that we asked, and certainly what we want to talk about today, what do you regard as the biggest challenge to the success of your IoT business? Again, this is just operators. Clear winner, developing the right business model and monetization. I think really this just demonstrates how nascent this whole space is. If you don't have a business model in place yet, or the right business model in place, you're not going to get very far. Certainly one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is what is the right business model and how do you monetize it. But again, vast majority there, that's the key challenge. Creating new differentiated services was second, 22%. Developing partnerships, absolutely key, 15%. I think what was surprising was that privacy and security, tech standards, regulation scored so low in these figures. That certainly surprised us here. We have got a whole session on tech and standards later on today, so perhaps look at that. But I thought that was sort of quite interesting. Some of the comments on the challenges, John Bates. I think everyone in the industry is struggling with this at the moment, and that's particularly regarding the business model side. The best answer so far is based on the number of connected devices. So it's crucial to be in the game with a reasonable model in order to get a foothold. On the privacy and security and tech stuff, Saviero says, privacy and security are not simply annoying barriers that come up because some researchers are talking about them. They are the essential building blocks of the IoT and require serious consideration. So those are some of the key findings. Hopefully that's kind of set the scene for a lot of what we're going to talk about today. The full results are going to be in our Q4 magazine, which is out next week. So we'll make sure that you get a copy of that so you can see the results in full.